Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of our Lunchtime Linkup Series, where we talk to members of our community about how we're impacting the tech ecosystem with diversity, equity, and inclusion as our guide. I'm your host, Cherise Luter. I'm the marketing director here at DivInc. And today is part one of our Meet the Founder series, where we are going to introduce you to the cohort for our 2022 Spring Social Justice Tech cohort. And it's leading up to their demo day on April 21st. And we thought this would be the perfect time to start introducing you all to them. So you're about what they're doing, you're excited about demo day, and really just to get them excited too. So today we have Mariah. She is the founder of Invisible Strengths. And I'm going to actually let her do the introduction of herself. And we'll just go from there. Mariah, take it away.
Hi, Cherise. Thank you. I'm so excited and looking forward to Demo Day. As you said, my name is Mariah Barber, and I'm founder and CEO of Invisible Strengths. And we are a job networking platform that is actually connecting inclusive employers in the fields of public health and healthcare with job seekers that are intersectional and are needing accommodations. So we're really excited to make a more inclusive onboarding experience and recruitment process for folks, and also educate people on diversity, equity, adding in accessibility and inclusion. And so really happy to be here today, happy to be a part of ushering the future of work, and have had a great experience so far with DivInc, and just coming into the family, coming into the fold.
Good. That's good to hear. All right. I wonder, we're going to kind of get into your founder journey and also the company journey, but I wonder, what was it that you saw, the problem that you witnessed, that you thought, okay, this is something that I can address, and I can address through a company like Invisible Strengths?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. Um, so I feel like our story starts 11 years ago, when I started working in public health. I've worked for organizations that are nonprofits all the way up to the federal government, and for international NGOs like Peace Corps. Um, and through those experiences, I was always just starting to talk about diversity, inclusion, decolonizing global health. And through my own life experience, I actually ended up finding out when I came back from Peace Corps, they test you for every tapeworm, to just seeing how your vitals are doing, because you're in a village and anything can happen. And so I actually found it out. I had a progressive vision disorder. And it was just kind of an experience that shifted the way I interacted with my workplaces. I had to ask for screen readers. My vision varied as I was getting different eye surgeries. And I learned about the accommodations process. And my employers really wanted to support me, regardless of who they were, as I transitioned throughout my career. But they just didn't really know how. There was just a lack of education, and it wasn't a seamless process. And I wanted to change that. And as I started to join different groups, for public health professionals, specifically for women of color, for queer people, for disability communities, I realized they're all siloed. And I wanted to integrate them together and really talk about intersectional folks that are in the middle of multiple Venn diagrams. I started doing services business as a consultant, teaching about DEAI to public health and healthcare organizations. And the number one finding was that a lot of folks didn't have access to a diverse pipeline of candidates. And they didn't know how to broach these conversations. And we're actually having these conversations with employees once they already entered and were absorbed by organizations, rather than on the front end. And so I wanted to change that process and empower folks on both sides, whether they were in compliance like I was in, or they were on the side of a job seeker. So uniquely, I've been on both sides of this problem. And I saw that both sides could be each other's solution. So 1 in 4 people actually have a chronic condition. And if you're a Black woman, actually 1 in 4 of Black women have a disability. And so I really wanted to just support those groups, but also educate the employers that having, more inclusive work environments can actually lead to greater return on investment, because you have higher employee engagement. You have a potential for people to thrive in the work environment, and in turn having higher revenue and higher productivity. So really everybody wins. when we create a more supportive environment for everyone.
Now, a second ago, and you mentioned it as well as we kind of said it in the very beginning, the addition of A in
Yeah.
the well-worn term DEI, the addition of A. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Because there's some of our viewers may not have known that that was something that they should be bearing in mind as they refer to that.
Yeah, so I am a huge proponent of talking about social determinants of health and health disparities. A researcher by training in anthropology and public health, and my main focus has been on Black and Brown communities for my career, and women in the most marginalized. And the number one group that actually experiences health disparities is those that are disabled. And a lot of folks in the disability community sometimes aren't acknowledging a huge segment of that population, which is those with invisible disabilities. So, invisible disabilities can be everything from depression, anxiety, even short term disabilities such as postpartum depression. And so, really, just bringing more people of color into that conversation is one of the things I'm a champion for. There is such a huge segment of that population that is Black women and women of color. And statistically, folks of color or folks from the queer community that are also differently abled are more likely to be unemployed or underemployed,
Right.
and less likely to be aware of the services that they can receive and the rights that they have to ask for supports from their employers. And then on the other side, employers that are working on health equity in the world need to also be mindful of working on health equity in the workplace and how to live out their ADA values. Everyone's ADA compliant, so they can
Right.
be an operating business,
Right.
legally
On
and
the
legally
website.
on the website, but like, how do we live out those values beyond the website?
Right.
And a lot of times, I do trainings on neurodiversity at work, how to support, be specifically talking about not being anti-black in the work that you're doing. And so really just understanding these aren't segmented trainings, but actually shifting of a culture. And there's a way to embed this into your strategic plan and into your revenue model and all elements of your business. And so folks want to understand this a bit better. And it can be as small as offering fidget spinners to employees that need them. And then seeing such a huge ROI from that small investment into your employees and your culture. So the A is going to be even bigger. As we understand, 25% of the population is already disabled of the working US population, but also that grows all the time. I like to talk to people about how we're all aging. And if things go according to plan, our cognition and our mobility is going to change. Disability is that one minority group that everyone's going to enter at some point in their lives. It's just
Right.
a matter of time. And so that's why this is so built, focused on the future of work, because
Right.
our population of working folks is aging, and we're not having a lot of folks being born to replace the working population. So on average, our employees are going to be older. So those innovative employers that are going to sustain and be trailblazers in the future are already thinking about this and how to build for the future of work and just to sustain their workers and support their workers. The biggest thing I would lastly say about accessibility is, especially with COVID, in
Mhm.
lieu of the pandemic that we're all still in, as a reminder, um, we we still have to understand that folks have complication of anxiety, of respiratory issues, of
Mhm.
all these things that are continuing on, even as we reintegrate and we have these vaccines and solutions. And there's depression, there's all these things that have come out of the COVID environment. And so those numbers are increasing. And there's still research coming out every day to show how employers can be more supportive of this telework environment, of what folks may need. So even if the accommodation is just telework, or flexible scheduling, just being open minded to how we avoid being a part of that great resignation by being proactive to what the appetite is for our employees, right?
So first off, I want to hand clap because a second ago you said something that's really, kind of snaps it all into focus of how important this is, at some point all of us are going to be in that space and having to think through these kinds of accommodations and our needs will match the things that your organization provides at some point in all of our lives. So that really kind of takes it from a this is from for a specific group of people to no, this could quite possibly be for everyone at some point. And so that's a big mind shift for me as well. So what is it that invisible strength does? So if and let's start with just for someone who's a job seeker and or is already a current employee and in a position, what is it? What services do you provide to those that group in order to help them with those accommodations and that advocacy?
Yeah, so we're a double-sided platform, B2B, subscription as a service, and also a marketplace. So basically, if you are a job seeker, you're able to build out your profile by putting in your things like your pronouns. You can select multiple race and ethnicity experiences. You can put your lived experience so that you can really uplift all elements of yourself as a candidate. Then we take you to an educational screen where we teach you about what are accommodations, what are the different categories, whether we're talking about a cognitive accommodation, such as flexible scheduling or coaching, or we're talking about a physical accommodation, such as an ergonomic chair or an ergonomic keyboard. And you're able to select those things that you need. And then on the other side, with the employer, when they are uploading their job description, we offer the same type of education, sharing what accommodations are, why it's important to actually explicitly list what accommodations are provided. And so let's just say the employer selects ergonomic keyboard and the job seeker has also a selected ergonomic keyboard, and this is for a position of a policy analyst. We connect them together because they've both indicated that the need that they're looking for and the offering they're willing to provide match. And so we are able to give the employer their top three candidates that fit their culture, as well as the demographic information they're looking for, such as a master's degree in public health and 3 years experience, but also someone who's looking for an ergonomic keyboard. And so that's how that works. And once we match them together, you're able to reach out to those candidates and set up a interview from there. But we're really trying to provide quality candidates in an untapped talent pipeline and pool where you're able to see on the front end. Also, as an organization, you can put if you're BIPOC led, if you're LGBTQ affirming, so that folks can see those intangibles behind just the logo of your company and company page. And so that's really what we're providing. We also have a long-term vision of having an asynchronous learning platform and having educational opportunities for employers as well as job seekers to understand how to talk about accommodations, how to ideate and think about things that maybe aren't even listed on our platform and be a part of building out this repository of resources.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So when you mentioned before, you're kind of in this early stage, and you're even talking about what's going to be coming down the pipeline in the future. And so that reminds me, this you are a startup, and as part of the cohort, you're still kind of building out and preparing for that kind of shift to seeking investment and seeking that kind of that support. So I wonder, related to your founder journey, what has that been like? You as a person, you as part of your team, and maybe even a little bit of how it's been within DivInc, but related to you as a person, what has that founder journey been like in seeing this come from maybe, a scribble on a napkin or something like that to something that actually, you've manifested?
Yeah, I love this question, Sharice. Oh man, my founder's journey started in 2020. Things changed overnight when it came to the pandemic, and I it also changed for me. I always like to say like I lost some of my sight, and then I started to have more vision. So
Nice.
uh,
Okay, write that one down.
yeah,
That was
um,
nice.
but it was just so ironic because that's when I started to actually have eye surgeries. And through those eye surgeries is when my vision would vary day to day. literally. And so I would have to talk to my managers, and it just, I was doing compliance. So of course, with compliance, you have to be able to see those details.
Right.
And so I had to start using a screen reader. I started, working a little bit slower and having to adjust certain things. And it was kind of an experience of relearning a new identity and structure. And I was able to reach out to different support groups. And through that, I actually found Together International. It is an organization for disabled founders. And they educated me and empowered me on how a lot of people with disabilities, they're used to creating solves for problems that they have in their own life. And
Yeah.
then sometimes you can scale those solves into a startup. So I came into that group and then started to think about, what if I saw this invisible disability that no one really knew that I had unless I disclosed to them as an invisible strength? Because as I was asking for closed captioning on meetings and more time and all these things, other coworkers were also saying, "Thank you for asking for this. I
Mhm.
have this other identity, or I don't even have a disability, but the closed captionings are helping me to further digest these meetings. These recordings are helping me to be able to go back and be more effective in my role as a project officer or whatever it was." And so I started to think creating these more inclusive work environments are about adding value to everyone.
Mhm.
And in turn, adding value and just increasing our productivity as a staff, and then increasing the way that we can support our constituents and support the larger organization. So I came up with the name. I literally scribbled the logo onto a piece of paper, and my cousin, who's an engineer and digital designer, helped me to digitize it. And then I created a website. I was at this time, I love reading. I have been a writer before, and I've always been an entrepreneur, selling my books and also doing consulting and motivational speaking and that kind of thing, but had never done a startup in a digital space. So I was reading Arlen Hamilton's "It's About Damn Time."
Yeah.
And sorry, I hope I can say the title, but that was my
Speech
first
ticket. So
time hearing about venture capital and really understanding the ecosystem of
Mhm.
startup, and understanding that this too can be a space for a queer, black, non-binary, disabled woman. And so just through Arlen's journey, I started following her and other people in the startup community and understanding venture and understanding this whole new language, right?
Right.
Um, and so through that, I actually discovered the term accelerators and incubators, and there were smaller steps that I won't all go into, but
Right.
I started working with the Small Business Administration in DC, and I got into a pre-accelerator program they had with George Washington University, and started doing customer discovery and just like really understanding the appetite for this product on the side of employers as well as on the side of job seekers. Through General Assembly, which I always sing their praises, they were able to help me through a design sprint of building out the first clickable prototype. And from there, it found DivInc. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. They're specifically supporting underrepresented founders. They're doing social impact work, because before that, no one else I knew was also doing social impact. I'd been in other startup spaces, but it felt really siloed in my journey just because I was building the plane while flying it. I was like, I want to help people, but I'm not a nonprofit. I want to scale. This is a very fundable business. And we're also going to do some great work in the world as a byproduct of making money. And so then once I found DivInc and started moving forward in the process, it was really just a Cinderella story. I was so excited with getting to come to Austin. I'm originally from the South, so I was just so excited to be able to be in the Silicon Valley of the South and just see other people that look like me, talk to other founders going through a similar journey. It
Mhm.
was, I call it just an illuminating experience. Um, I didn't know I had been doing meetings. I've been called like scrappy by my cohort. So like one thing about me is I'll find a resource. I was a grant writer and a project officer, so I knew about funding organizations and building out budgets and all these things. So I was just getting in front of investors, but my pitch deck, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't, when they would ask me about safes and convertible notes, I didn't know the language. So DivInc has really helped with giving a lot of resources in the form of books, in the form of instructors, in the form of mentors, that are just really pointed at what I'm doing at SaaS B2B, are teaching me the language, making sure I have the tools, and that I'm really competent, and know how to discuss the product that I'm building out. And I think I started off with really so focused on the side of the marketplace that's for job seekers. But
Right.
I'm also now pivoting through the DivInc framework on just focusing on the paying customer, which has been the businesses. And so that's been amazing to just talk to a lot of executives in human resources, or people in culture, as we're shifting to call it, and like what they need, what their pain points have been, how our value proposition as invisible strengths can solve those pain points and just add value, and meet their needs as well, and just ideate and constantly. That's how we even learned to build in the educational component, because people kept asking for more education around accommodations. And so we learned this also needs to be a learning platform for folks to understand this at a deeper level. So I've really just appreciated understanding conversion, understanding marketing, all these different things, funnels, financial modeling, just so many things to get us ready for these angels and for this VC. So it's really taken us into our next staging,
Yeah.
and that's just been only a few things I've gotten from DivInc, the community, and so much education that's just immediately been able to build into invisible strengths and increase our viability, sustainability, and fundability. If fundability can be a word.
um, oh, you mentioned a second ago about the kind of the collaborative um, uh, uh, approach that we have, and I'd like to hear, what's it been like working within the your cohort members. I know we take a lot of time and effort in making sure that everyone in your cohort, you yourself will be able to grow, but also you'll be able to assist and grow with your class, I guess, would be the shorthand for it. So
Yeah.
what's that been like? And like you said, being around people, like-minded people who look like you and have those same kind of experiences as you.
I would say I'm big on intention. And I could definitely see the intentionality and the curation behind putting together the cohort. I feel like we're like a little mini family, and it's just so authentic. We all show up as ourselves, and we all have different skill sets and resources that we bring. And it's not like a closed button connection. It's what I mean by that is like we just flow and support one another. From King Kofa teaching me about no code tools, and me also sharing about like where the Black designers at, like different Slack channels I had been in to find resources, to even working with Quimby, because we're both B2B and SaaS, and working on employee engagement. We've had our own opportunities to really put together our due diligence folders, and I've been able to share with them some General Assembly resources, and they've been able to tell me what DivInc mentors were helpful to them, and then I was able to reach out to those folks. Even when I think about Invisible Ink, with the amazing Benito and Alejandro, they've been able to teach me a lot of things around just the ecosystem of like investors that are looking for my type of businesses. And I've been able to share some like full stack development offshoring resources I've used in Latin America with them. I think everybody just comes with their own unique perspective and journey. And they've also worked with SBIR, which is a grant that I'm actually looking to go into as well. So it's just been great to be just a mutually beneficial ecosystem within ourselves, within an ecosystem of the greater DivInc, and all of the mentors, and just people associated with DivInc. As soon as I get on a call with them, they're like, "Oh, anything for DivInc? How can I support?" And it's just the love is there. The love is the currency of like this whole organization, and it's just I feel like just real talk, behind the curtain of like going to, because we've all gone to those webinars that are really supportive, but it's like a tailoring of the resources and really an education on, as a person of color, as a person from an underrepresented group, how do you broach these conversations? These disparities are happening. Here's what we're going to do to build you up, so that you have the best possible chance at these opportunities with venture capitalists, with these venture studios, and even with angels. Warm introductions, all these things have been really, really super helpful. And I love the emphasis on the wellness piece of it.
Right.
I
Yes.
always joke with people, and I'm like, if you want to be a startup founder, the first thing you need to do is get in therapy. have, your, have your
I
wellness.
feel like anyone over the age of 30 might, you know.
And also, if you're from some of these marginalized groups, you should already be pouring into that, right? I think that's a part of reparations and healing of our community because you've been through a lot of traumas, and it's helpful to unpack those traumas and to understand how to like galvanize yourself forward and take care of yourself in this work. I want to support my community, but you're no good to your community or to your staff and your team unless you're in a great and healthy space. So I love that we have like our Wellness Wednesdays, and it's just created a practice of like self-care,
Right.
and sharing like resources of what we're doing to make sure that our team and us are fostering a healthy culture because we're building a different type of startup, that honors the personhood of the people that work for us and really wants to pour into folks, and build capacity of organizations and teach them a different way of sustainability while also being effective, at the job that we're doing and knowing the value we provide. So that's been great with DivInc of just having a coach for us, of talking about mindfulness, of talking about, even our session yesterday, like a healthy relationship with money, of talking about manifestation, but also the business plan. All of this goes into it. And I think it's just, an ancestral strength that we have coming from these different backgrounds. It's more than writing this business plan on a napkin. It's about like your soul and how you're feeling, and how to like, just strengthen yourself in times of struggle because they will come up. And it's like, how do you rise to the occasion? How do you take care of yourself? How do you nurture yourself, and make it so that you can keep on this long-term journey, and keep up, your resiliency. Because I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of the journey that's not discussed enough. So I've also appreciated that and bringing in my own practices and learning from the cohort and also the experts that come in.
That's good. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. Well, I mean, the demo day is only in a few weeks.
It is. I'm getting excited.
And during demo day, we have every one of our cohort members do their pitch and talk about their company, talk about their story, and just give a peek into what's in store for them moving forward and ways that our community can support them in that. So, is there anything that you'd like to share about what you have coming up, or either leading up to demo day or moving to demo day and beyond? That you have coming up, maybe the number one thing that you're most excited about, and then tell us how we can support you in that.
Yeah, I'm most excited about, us going from our clickable prototype to our minimum viable product and really getting that pilot off the ground. We're going to be partnering with 10 organizations and 100 job seekers to build out our initial pilot. So we'd love for folks to be able to connect and support that. Runway for that is in the next 2 months. So I'm super joyful. People have been saying, when is this?
Mhm.
When can we pay for a subscription? And so the answer is coming soon. We do have a pre-subscription. You can go to our website, invisiblestrengths.com, to sign up for that. And also, we're always doing customer discovery. We're always willing, to talk to folks that want to be champions, that want to be early adopters and supporters in different senses of the word, whether that's pouring in resources, time, or just, your ideas. This is a collective build. And so I'm super excited to share, with the community on Demo Day how far we've come since being in DivInc, and, just all the traction that's been garnered, all of the things that we've learned, and all of the pivots that we've been able to make, through the customer discovery, such as I already gave you a little peek, but having the learning elements in the
Yeah.
platform as well. And also just how we've been able to do this usability testing. with over 300 folks and what they've told us. And so excited to just continue to build, and more importantly, have us have some paying customers that are going to give us some real time feedback, get this into the user's hands, and also to help people,
Yeah.
and support community on both sides, whether you're a people and culture executive in healthcare or public health, or you're a job seeker. We're all trying to see a world that actualizes health equity. So I'm excited to be a part of that, a small part of that solution building.
And with that, I usually like to end our lunchtime link ups with key takeaways. And I'm realizing the key takeaway I'd really like to have you share would be related to the people that you are here to serve through your organization. So I would love for you to share one, maybe number one tip for an employee or a job seeker who is looking to be able to advocate for themselves.
Mhm.
And whether it's related to an accessibility concern or just wanting to have this top of mind at their company moving forward, that number one tip, the thing that they should do.
Yeah. I would say number one tip is to understand how to reduce stigma. And when I say stigma, it's not really these workplaces that are putting the stigma always on us. Sometimes it's internalized demoralization, from when you hear a diagnosis to like getting to those action steps. A lot of older adults are finding out in this new working environment that they have ADHD, and so it's like when you find out you have ADHD, at a later stage in life, understand there are resources and you're not alone. And so immediately I would say trying to find out online, typing in accommodations around ADHD, and just starting to look through what's available out there. You can also go to Invisible Strength, shameless plug, and find resources from
Not
us.
shameless. Do it. Go.
But finding out, whether that's flexible scheduling, a fidget spinner, a lot of this is going to be trial and error and understanding what tailored approach works best for you. It's not one size fits all. And so being patient, I love to say like grace and accountability. We want to be accountable to our jobs, and we also, as a workplace, want to be accountable to our staff, and we also want to move with grace. So understanding that you can't communicate with this, it's practicing what you want to say to either your manager or to HR, and maybe to both, about this new diagnosis and the fact that you're exploring different solutions, whether that's having a check-in with your supervisor or having coaching, or having a program like tech, like Asana, added to your device so that you can get reminders of your to-do list. That's just one example. But really what we like to focus on is the solutions, rather than the diagnosis. So I think that really helps with stigma. And that's the biggest advice I would give to employers or employees. We don't always have to say it's neurodiversity. Sometimes we can just focus on the facilitators of change, right? So it's like if it's a flexible scheduling, learning what that looks like in your workspace. We're still going to be effective. We're still going to get the job done. We still have a role and responsibility we need to meet. But like, how can we support folks in that? Because these numbers are underreported according to the Department of Labor and the Center for Disease Control. And there are so many people dealing with these invisible disabilities and chronic conditions, even if we don't call it disabilities. There are people with diabetes. There are people who are caretakers. And
Right.
so things change. Nothing in this life is stagnant. That's what the pandemic taught us. So when things change, how do you pivot as an organization? How do you pivot as a person, so that you can garner the most success possible? And so already educating yourself on these things proactively, right? Rather than being reactive, just shifting to a proactive mindset. Because as I said, whether it's, a screen reader or more flexible scheduling, coaching, these things can help people who don't have these conditions as well. When we put in the closed captioning, other people are reading and able to digest the information too. When we add in coaching, or we add in, ergonomics chairs, we're preventing folks from even having conditions later on, and in turn saving ourselves dollars. in the long run. And that's really the whole crux of public health and healthcare. If things work on the preventative side, you never actually see the problem happen.
Yeah.
So if we get more people vaccinated, even bringing it back to COVID or any other condition, we don't see as many people getting chicken pox or
Right.
measles and rubella. I'm a scientist, so I'm always going to bring it back to that.
Right.
We work ourselves out of being needed. Um, and so, really, just thinking about it from the plus one mindset of just being more proactive, and just not waiting until it's needed, but also just saying this is what's offered, and here's how you access these services should you need, and not really requiring anyone to really disclose, and still, being ADA compliant in all things that we do, but you don't have to let us know why you need the flexible scheduling. It's just let's see if we can foster this for this particular role. Or can we get an ergonomic keyboard so that less of our employees even have to deal with our carpal tunnel down the road? So yeah, I think it's just those little investments, and
Mhm.
they can be minuscule and low impact, low cost, but they can lead to high reward and high ROI and savings in the long term for big and small organizations. So I think that is my short answer. It's really a lot of us just need more education, more visibility, and more just understanding around the topic because we all have the best intentions. We just need to look at the impact we're setting in on both sides of our platform and also just the ecosystem because even without us, these conversations are happening.
Right.
Accommodations are not being provided, and conversation around this and stigma around this is not helping anyone. It's actually inhibiting success and ROI for businesses.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mariah, for being on the show today. This was wonderful. I'm so excited to see you at Demo Day. You'll be able to see Mariah and the rest of our Spring 2022 as a social justice tech cohort powered by Ascension. You'll be able to see them on April 21st, and the link is right there for you to sign up. And it'll be in Austin in person, and we'll also have in our Houston location a watch party. So you'll be able to be a part of the fun on the 21st and learn more about Mariah and her organization, Invisible Strengths, and also all of the rest of our cohort. So this is episode 1 of our Meet the Founders. Our next one is coming up soon, so I cannot wait to speak with everyone else. Enjoy your day, and thank you so much for tuning in. You have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's great talking to you, Sheree.